What's going on, guys? Welcome to the channel. Today we're going to talk about how to prospect effectively so you can get more meetings with decision makers and ultimately close more deals. So if you're struggling right now to book meetings and fill your sales pipeline, trust me, you're not alone. It could be a very difficult task, but today I'm going to break down a proven strategy that I use for prospecting that's going to help you land more meetings with decision makers and ultimately close more deals. So whether you're in B2B sales, business to business, or B2C sales, business to consumer, these tips are going to help separate yourself from the competition. So let's go ahead and jump in today's video. So before we can talk about the tactics of prospecting and how to prospect effectively, let's talk about what prospecting really is. So prospecting is a process of identifying and reaching out to potential people or clients that may be interested in your product or service. Let me repeat that one more time. Prospecting is identifying and reaching out to people who may be interested in your product or service. But here's the key to prospecting. It's not just picking up the phone and cold calling. It's a mix of research, outreach, and follow-up. Now, I promise you, if you do all three of these correctly, you're going to transform the way you do sales and you're going to get far better results. So there are two types of prospecting. We have inbound prospecting and we have outbound prospecting. So inbound prospecting, when you think of that, think of things like referrals. Maybe they're doing a search on your website, social media messages. Maybe they're doing a Google search and they find your business and they pick up the phone and call you. That's inbound. Outbound is where most new salespeople struggle. This is where you generate your own leads by picking up the phone, interrupting somebody's day and doing a cold call. You're sending them an email, a LinkedIn outreach request. Maybe you're going to a networking event, or you're just simply knocking on doors, business to business. Most people fail here because it's uncomfortable and they don't have a good, effective strategy to do this correctly. Now, that's what I'm going to break down in this video is how do we outbound and do outbound prospecting effectively? Because if we just sit here and wait for inbound leads to come to us, we're going to be hungry, especially as a new salesperson. You can't wait for inbound leads to come to you. You have to do outbound reach outs in order to sell effectively. So step number one is we have to identify the right prospect. Now, when we talk about identifying the right prospects, there's a couple of things we have to look at. We have to look at what type of industry, what types of problems are we solving? So what types of businesses have these problems? Maybe it's a industry specific. Maybe you're selling software or technology and you're targeting a specific type of business. Maybe it's medical. Identify the types of businesses that you want to do business with or that you're trying to get in with. The second thing we need to do is we need to identify who the decision maker is within that business. Maybe it's the owner. Maybe it's the C-level executive team, the COO, CFO, COO. Maybe it's one of them. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's the office manager or HR manager. But you have to identify who it is that's actually going to make the decision whether they use your product or service. Now, a lot of new salespeople get caught in the trap because it's easier to set a meeting with an office manager or maybe an HR manager than it is the actual owner of the company. But let me tell you what, you're wasting your time. Only set a meeting with the person that's going to make the decision. Why? Because if you set it with somebody else that doesn't ultimately make the decision, even if they like your product or service, what's going to happen is they're going to go try to pitch it to the real decision maker, and they can't pitch it as effectively as you because they don't understand your product or solution as well as you, and it's going to get shot down. You just decrease the chances of a sale dramatically by pitching to the wrong person. Now, sometimes you don't know right away. Maybe it is the HR manager that makes the decision, but they have to get the buy-in before the owner gets the buy-in. So there are times that happens, but ultimately what you want to do is find out who makes a decision and pitch your product or service to that person. Now, once we identify the business, who the decision maker is, the second step that we have to do is we have to do a drop. Now, you don't have to do this, but I highly recommend it, especially as you're getting bigger and bigger businesses or bigger companies. If they only have, maybe 5 employees or a small little company, you can get away without doing a drop. but I highly recommend doing a drop. And what is a drop? So what you're going to do is you're going to go to that business and you're going to drop off a personal gift. It has a handwritten note. This is an example of something that I drop off. It has popcorn. There's a book about human capital strategy. That's personally what I sell, PEO, also known as Professional Employment Organization, Strategic HR. But the book is on that, and it's a popcorn, and it has a little personal note from me. Now, a gift could be anything. It could be a bag of popcorn. It could be anything that you want it to be. Memorabilia, a floor mat, a logoed mat, a hat. It doesn't matter what it is. Think originally, or think about your product or service, and try to put your gift something along the lines of that. But it doesn't really matter what it is. It could be a gift card. But what you're going to do is you're going to drop it off to that business. Now, from here, I don't want you to try to set up a meeting with the decision maker. Usually they're very busy. Don't try to get in front of them at that time. You're simply going to go in there, talk to the receptionist and say, hey, can I drop this off for Paul or whoever that decision maker is? Step number 3 is the follow-up. So once you drop that book or that gift off to the decision maker, either the same day or the next day, you need to pick up the phone and you need to ask for that individual. So it's going to sound something like this. If I call, I'm trying to call Paul at XYZ company, I'm going to pick up the phone. The receptionist is going to answer. I'm going to say, yes, can I be transferred to Paul, please? And they're going to say, well, what's this regarding? Yeah, just let them know Joseph McCormick's on the phone. I dropped off something yesterday. I just want to make sure he received it. And then pause, and they will put you through to Paul. If you get a hold of them, the whole idea of making the outbound call or the cold call is to set a meeting. It's not to try to pitch your product or service. So simply when I call Paul, is say, hey, Paul, I dropped off a book yesterday. Did you receive it? He's going to say, yeah, I did, or no, I didn't. Whatever the case, it doesn't matter what he says. But I'm just calling you to follow up on that. And I'm trying to get in your calendar, not next week, but the following week on Tuesday or Thursday, to kind of show you how I'm helping businesses contain costs with employees and drive revenue, or whatever product or service you're selling. You're simply trying to get the meeting. You're not trying to sell them on the phone. So let's talk about this again. There's a few step process here. First, we want to identify our prospect. We want to identify the business, the industry, who the key decision maker is. Now, I would put that on an Excel sheet. Now, as you're doing that research, like I said, you can use LinkedIn Sales Navigator, you can use Zoom Info, or you can use Google, and you're going to start doing those searches and come up with a nice list. From there, if you don't want to drive a lot, you can use something like Badger Mapping, where it's going to map out your routes so that way you can go hit all these businesses when you do your drops. So step number 2 is you're going to do a drop. You're going to go drop off a gift to the decision maker. I keep them all under $10. Usually they're anywhere between $5 and $10, but we're going to drop off a gift to the decision maker, something that is memorable. So when you call them, they know that you're the one that dropped that off. And like I said, there's a million different things that you can drop off. It could be a simple card, gift card, book, anything. I've seen baskets, wine bottles, whatever it is that you want to drop off, you're going to do that. The most important part after that is the follow-up. And this is where a lot of new salespeople, they mess up, especially in business-to-business sales, because the sales cycle takes a long time. It could take anywhere between a week to 2 years if it's a government contract. So follow-up is crucial here. You're going to send an email, you're going to pick up the phone, and you're going to call them, and you're going to try to get a hold of them and follow up on the gift that you just dropped off. And like I said, it sounds something as simple as saying, hey, Paul, I just wanted to follow up on the book that I dropped off yesterday, and I wanted to see if I can get in your calendar, not this week, but the following week, to talk about, how I'm helping businesses contain costs and drive revenue with employees. I keep it short, simple, very vague, and I'm simply trying to set up the meeting. I'm not trying to sell my product or service at that point. So those are the 3 steps. Follow-up is crucial. Now, on average, it's going to take you anywhere between 7 and 8 times of cold outreach, picking up the phone and making those dials. Sending emails, it's a mixture of emails, LinkedIn requests, phone calls after you do the drop. So that's the sequence that I follow. Now, I promise you, if you do this correctly, you're going to set more meetings with those decision makers and you're going to close more deals. But keep track of it on your CRM. Keep a track of it maybe on an Excel sheet if you don't have a CRM, a customer management relationship system. I use a CRM. I use Big and it's $15 a month. You can use Salesforce or whatever you're using. But keep track of your prospecting sequence. We call it a cadence in sales, but there's steps to this. Don't just skip steps because you're lazy. Set up a time. Usually I have my calendar planned out a week in advance. On average, I'm making 60 to 70 dials 4 days a week. And then I'm doing drops 1 or 2 days a week. Now, when I'm doing drops and I'm dropping off gifts, I'm typically dropping off anywhere between 20 and 30. That's how many drops you're doing each week. Think of that. If you do that for a whole year, 20 to 30 drops a week, that's going to be 1,000 a year of prospects that you're following up on. So it builds a huge pipeline, but it keeps your pipeline full, rich, and it keeps these warm leads warm. So you're not just cold outreaching, picking up the phone. They don't know who you are. They have no idea why you're calling them. This gives you a reason to call them. And plus, they're thankful for your little gift that you gave them. They're more likely to talk to you. The lead becomes more enjoyable when you call. And I promise you, you're going to book more appointments if you do this and you follow those sequences. So guys, if you enjoyed the video, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. I plan on doing more videos like this for sales professionals, for entrepreneurs. And I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video. Take care. Have a wonderful day.